Hi guys, I'm Dan McDermott from Google Plus Week. I'm getting ready to. We're doing a hangout, just a random Sunday hangout, and I'm inviting people now, and I'm glad you could join us. So I'm not sure what we're going to talk about here, but I'm going to invite some folks here. That's what I'm kind of multitasking. And let's see what happens. I'm going to try to monitor all the comments as we go. Let's see here. Go to my profile, to the player. Please join us. I don't know what to talk about. There's a lot going on. It's the 100th anniversary of the Titanic. There's some controversy about trending topics that happened, and I'm going to make sure I invite Pam out. Adger here. Let me see here. We had a little go around about that. It was great. It's good debate. Good topic. Hopefully we'll get some folks in here and have a little chat on a Sunday afternoon. It's about 80 degrees, I think. Let me see here. Here on the East Coast, it's 82 degrees Fahrenheit. Nice weather. See if we can get some folks in here. Stephanie, how you doing?
Hi. It's the first time I've actually been on one of your hangouts. Yeah.
Welcome. Good to see you.
Nice to see you too. Yeah.
So what's going on this Sunday?
Not too much. I'm on finals for graduating from school, so 4 exams next week. So that's just staying around.
Good for you. What's your major? Are you going for associates or a bachelor or master's, or what are you doing?
It's just basic. It's just a basic diploma. It's just office administration executive, so I could be a personal assistant or something like that. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
You're in Canada, right?
Yeah. But
awesome.
I'm most likely moving to Los Angeles. I am going to Los Angeles on vacation May 1st. Yeah, and may have opportunity to get a job there eventually. So.
Good for you.
Been in Canada all my life, which is 40 years.
So we have UK folks in here.
That's Henry. Henry's from the UK.
Hi guys, you alright?
What's up, Henry? How you doing, buddy?
10:30 where he is.
I'm great, Tyler. How about you?
Doing well. It's nice weather here. It's 82 degrees in Bentonville, Front Royal, Virginia.
Wow.
Let me make a prediction. Over in Liverpool, I bet it's cloudy today. Or was.
Actually, it's been a relatively sunny day, but it's still pretty cold in comparison to America. I'd say about, we do it in Celsius over here, so I don't know what the conversion rate is, but it's probably around 24 degrees Celsius.
We have Celsius too, but I also know Fahrenheit. I'm in Canada, Henry, so we're the same.
Oh, right, that's cool.
We're the same as you. You just have to translate for Dan. Not for me. Yeah, we're at 60 Fahrenheit or about 17 Celsius. Yeah, that's what we're at. So pretty much the same as the UK. It's definitely not 80 here.
I know, yeah.
That's cool. So what's going on in Liverpool? What's the big news story, or what's going on there?
Not much. Yesterday there was a derby match between the two local football teams, Everton and Liverpool. There was also the biggest steeplechase in the world at Aintree Racecourse.
Hey, Pam.
Grand National. Hey, Pam.
It's
Oh,
nice to-
I thought that was muted. Sorry.
Yeah.
Hey, we're getting some audio feedback. Henry, if you could lower your speaker volume just a bit, and if you could raise your microphone volume just a bit, that would be great.
Sure thing.
It's a little
Yeah.
hard. It's hard to hear you, and we're getting some echo back from your feed.
All
It
right.
just
Pam, how-
happened. Yeah, it just happened when he came in. So, yeah.
And I'm supposed to tell Steph I said hi, Dan, from John Jensen.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know John Jensen from Google Buzz. He's always telling me to get to your Friday night. But I just have 2 other hangouts going on Friday night, so Friday night's not a good night. And I've always meant to come in, but Sunday afternoon is good for me, as you can see. So that's why I came in now. Yeah.
Friday's a tough time to get people to show up for a hangout, let me tell you.
Yeah, and it's not that I'm not around, but as my social life's very limited right now, but I have other hangouts going on. So, Pam, it's really nice to see you face to face because I comment on her posts a lot. I've never seen her in a hangout yet.
Yeah, Dan's hangouts are the only ones I ever hang out with.
Hey, we're still getting some feedback from you, Henry. Why don't you mute your microphone, and then whenever you want to talk, just unmute it. Just use that button on the top right.
Sorry, I'm actually on my mum's computer at the minute. I'm not on my own computer. Sorry about it.
That's okay.
Hi, Shiraz.
Yeah,
Hey,
sure.
how's it going?
Good. Where are you?
I'm actually in San Francisco, California. I actually work for Google, so I've been
Yeah.
joining Hangouts here and there. And yeah, I actually work for Google Plus. And basically, what we're doing is we're trying to get some feedback right now on what everybody's doing and how everybody likes it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I like the new design pretty well, but I have to say that the scroll bar in Chrome is kind of screwed up ever since the GChat was put on the side there. The scroll bar doesn't scroll up and down properly, and it does on every other site. But other than that, I'd say it's 90% fantastic. It's a very pretty layout. And I like where the GChat is, too, because I use GChat a lot, so it was more convenient. But it just screws up my scroll bar. That's all. Yeah. So.
Cool.
What do you think about it, Pam?
What, the new G Plus layout or Hangouts?
Either or both. You got a Googler here. Eager to hear your words.
I actually like the new layout. I still would wish that there wasn't when you share something, the whole share thing goes flying off the screen. That's kind of a
It's been
pain in the
doing
butt.
that. You have to chase
But-
it off the screen.
Yeah, but the extension for StreamPods works, still works for me, so that's good. Yeah, but everything else is good. I'm definitely not a chatter. I don't do chat at all, so I had to go in and change my settings so that I'm either chatting with myself only or
Your circles. Your circles.
I unchecked all the circles.
Yeah. I
But,
have mine set to only my circles because there's over 40,000 people following me, so you can imagine
exactly.
if I didn't have the settings. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't have
I make myself
40,000, but
invisible.
still.
I make myself invisible because you just, it's crazy.
I
Yeah.
can't do that. I'm a people person. Mine always says available, but sometimes, yeah, you don't really just pretend you're not online. If you get somebody talking to you that you don't want to talk to, I just pretend they're not online. Then, but I always have it as available because I often give Hangout tutorials or things like that. So that's why I make myself available so I can answer questions.
Shiraz, pronounce your name for me so I know how to pronounce it right.
Sure, it's actually just Shiraz, just like the wine.
Okay.
Okay, so we were saying it right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I think, you know, there were all the news stories about the 3 minutes and all that crap, written by Google haters and people who don't use the service or know anything about it. But some of the, I guess, some of the stuff's accurate, but there was an issue I'm sure you're aware of where some people, the tech geeks got it, the photographers got it, but there was an issue with folks who would come and they didn't figure it out or whatever, and they wouldn't stay. There was some segment of the population that was in that category, and I think that the new design, highlighting, but not too in your face, but highlighting like the trending topics as a discovery engine, because like I wasn't aware of the North Korea thing, the missile launch, until I saw it on Trending Topic and clicked and then saw it and then saw these funny memes and stuff. So I think it's a good thing. I think it's a fantastic redesign. I really like it.
Yeah,
I
but
think it's going to help with the engagement.
Can I be the lone?
Go ahead.
I was gonna.
Can I be the lone critique then?
After he goes, I'll say what I think. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you were.
No, Euro. Yeah, Euro, go ahead.
Yeah.
And welcome.
Okay. Well,
I'll talk after you.
Oh,
Euro.
thank you. I'm a pleasure to be here. Yeah, I don't want to be the sole person critiquing, but I do like the new layout in general. I think it made some great advances. I guess my concern is for myself and people like me, and I think there's many of them out there, who have a wide screen, because what happens is the entire comments and posts get pushed off to the left side, of course.
Don't mention the word white space, please.
I won't mention the nasty word, because I know everyone's talked about it. But there's a large part of the screen that's unused, and it's not centered.
There's an extension that takes care of that, though, too. It's a GXtend.
Actually, I use another extension. I use I edit the CSS scripts to put it back in the center and move things around. So
but it's only temporary.
But my point is,
it's only temporary as well.
But I'm just saying, initially it just looks poor from a design viewpoint. It doesn't look great. And the other issue with that too was the comments. The contrast on the comments was lowered considerably.
Yeah.
It's almost like de-emphasizing the comments.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the gray and gray I don't like because I have bad eyesight to begin with.
Exactly.
Yeah, so gray and gray is not good. Yeah,
exactly.
Black.
Is on there too.
So I guess one of the good things is at least some of the discrepancies or some of the I guess quote unquote issues people are having are at least cosmetic. So that's good.
Yes.
I guess.
Yeah, the YouTube videos show up beautifully. But for trending topics, I wanted to mention, Dan, it's very, very easily manipulated. As you noticed on this weekend, I don't know, have you seen yesterday where a group decided to get testicles on there, and it was trending in an hour just because the group, and then today they did it again with awesome. So I'm not saying like it's that it is actually the 5 most newsworthy things in the world. It's whatever a group decides to put up there. I never took it really seriously on Twitter either. So it's good for breaking news or if someone dies or the Korea thing. But like about half of it is just a joke. Like yesterday, Justin Bieber was trending. Who cares? You know what I mean?
Oh, I think that's fantastic because it shows that, originally this was, as I've said many times, this was a tech sausage factory. And the early adopters. And it's exciting to see topics like Lady Gaga and Justin Bieber because that tells me that it's going mainstream. To see topics like NASCAR or things like that, Formula One, that tells me that it's moving beyond not just in terms of who has signed up for an account because they bought an Android phone or what have you and they spent 30 seconds on it and didn't find anything they like and they moved on. It shows me that folks are posting publicly because only those things, of course, will get in the trending topics list and be, curated that way. It shows me that there is a more mainstream Facebook. The Facebook people are coming over, for better or worse. But I'm excited by that. I think it's great to see Justin Bieber and Lady Gaga on the trending topics list because that means the amount of time between now and when all of our friends are on here is narrowing. And it's very exciting, and I think the redesign is a lot, part of that, and are going to give it a big assist. I'm very excited about that.
And you know what's going to get more people over? I got one Facebook friend over here from Billy Wilson has a variety show, and one Friday night I was a guest on the variety show, and I just thought, I'm going to post this on Facebook because I have some friends there who wouldn't come over here. An Australian friend watched it, and he goes, you know what? I have a Google Plus account, but I never went back. He goes, this kind of thing goes on here all the time, and he's a photographer. I go, you're a photographer. They've got like 30,000 photographers on there. And he goes, oh, I'm coming over here right away. So that's how I got him over here, a combination of Hangover and Hangout. He thought it was just for tech people, too. I go, no, do you think I would be there if it's just for tech people? Like, I'm more of a movie person, eh? So, but I said, there's any interest you have, it's over here. You know what I mean? And so he understands that it's broader than Facebook now. You know, because he said he gets bored on Facebook because it's just games and status updates, right? So here, there's more for him.
I think that's an excellent point, because that's exactly the problem with Facebook, is because it's so designed for the social graph, and then it just sort of devolves into this gaming and inane stuff. And the advantage of Google Plus is that we do have engaged, interesting discussions on a whole variety of topics, and it can appeal to all kinds of niche communities, which it has done already, you know, with the geeks, obviously, but also with the photographers. And now, as you pointed out, it's starting to generate more general appeal. So I think the future is very exciting.
Let me ask a quick question. First of all, let me read 2 comments from the YouTube player. I agree with the new widescreen issue on the new layout. That's from, I can't pronounce the name, I apologize. And then make Hangouts, this is from Dexter82. Make Hangouts with a super user to kick people when person's hosting Hangout leaves. He should set the admin to another person still in the Hangout, or if not, set default to the longest active user. That's an interesting suggestion. Yeah, that's the thing. Hangouts exist permanently. Regular Hangouts do. You can start a Hangout, but you don't own it. And it's just like think of a Hangout in terms of a table in a restaurant, a coffee shop, bar, whatever. You can sit down first when the restaurant first opens, and you set the trend for that table, and you have your friends over, or your wife or girlfriend or whatever, and you eat, and then you leave, and then someone else comes, and there's conversations going on, and it can continue until finally the restaurant closes or the last person leaves or what have you. So it's an interesting phenomenon. Hangouts on air are different because it's broadcast, so we're responsible for the conduct and stuff. So when we leave, it's done. But anyway, keep the comments coming, and we'll check them out and address them. I've a question. Is it for Shiraz or Shiraz?
Yes, Shiraz.
Shiraz. Okay, I'm ADD, so I'll maybe ask you twice more, and then I'll get it finally.
Sure.
No Ritalin in my household. But anyway, I'm curious on the Hangouts to watch. I've noticed sometimes on the billboard page on the interface, sometimes like this Hangout showed up initially, and I guess that's how you saw it, and then it disappears. Is that curated, monitored, or whatever? Because sometimes it shows up, like sometimes I said test Hangout, and it showed up there. But then when we did Google Plus Week, it didn't show up there. And like right now, there are no Hangouts to watch. There's just Hangouts to join. How does that work? How do they select which?
Yeah, definitely.
Hangouts?
So currently, there's a couple ways right now. There are a couple algorithms that actually bump it up, depending on how popular it might possibly be, or if it's just a brand new Hangout that basically it's a public Hangout and people would like to join. So there are going to be a couple cool new ways, basically how it's going to affect Hangouts, but right now it's basically just as soon as a public one pops up, it kind of just shows up here and there.
Okay. So it's just random, or are there certain things you should avoid in the title of it?
I mean, basically what we would recommend doing is just make sure you do title the Hangout. A lot of people will start a Hangout, but they won't title it. So make sure you just, people know exactly what the Hangout is for.
Okay. So someone is selecting it?
Not someone in particular, no. It's just basically Google Plus is basically, as soon as you start the Hangout itself, it actually shows back up onto Google Plus Hangouts. But a lot of people, for the user itself, if you don't title your Hangout, they won't actually be able to know what it is. So just to make it easier to find, per se, for the user, you definitely want to title it.
Okay. And then we had, on the issue of Pam and I had a go-around, friendly but, lively, about the trending topic issue that occurred with, the anatomy of a bull or whatever. And so it was like, sure. My whole view was that you have 13-year-olds on the service.
Yes.
And I can only imagine the news stories that would happen if, for any length of time, that term were on every page on Google. It's a lot like M.G. Siegler's middle finger picture that was his profile picture. If he puts that in a post, in his stream, that's different because people can choose to block him or mute him or not follow him. People who choose to follow him do so knowing the kind of content. You know, he writes some very interesting and sometimes racy, sometimes whatever content, but your profile picture is different. That shows up everywhere. You could comment on someone else's post and it shows up. So the same thing with, I'll just say it, testicles as a trending topic. It was a deliberate gaming of the system, and then Google nuked it, right? And I think they were right to do so because that, you know, they have a brand to protect, and I can only imagine the thousands of complaints you would get from parents, the news stories that would happen if that were up there for any length of time. I could just imagine someone taking a picture of a 13-year-old using Google Plus legally, and the word testicles is on the screen, right? So that was my view. Now, but then there's the other view. But Pam, I think, has come around because you have a brand to protect and all those that hassle to avoid. But initially, make your point. Make your initial point that you were ranting about.
Well, I mean, and as a marketing fan or whatever you're, I buy into the whole part of marketing. So I understand Google has a brand to protect, and I understand that this is Google's site, and they can do with what they want. But technically, it doesn't. Testicles, other than posting human nudity, doesn't violate the terms of service, and that was my point. Testicles is the correct term. It is the anatomical, name for that part of the body, and people can game the system all the time, and that's the suggested users list. Google does. Google games the system. They choose things that they want us to see or do or whatever. That's on the what's hot list. They moderated that very heavily, and they're doing the same with the trending list. I don't agree with that. I think that they should let it be organic. It's not going to last forever. It's going to be a day at the most. And the fact that 13-year-olds are allowed on here, that's their parents' job to supervise their kids and to moderate what they can see. That's not Google's job. That was
But
my
the difference is it's on every page of Google. There's no way that you can prevent it, right?
You keep it to yourself for a day.
And that was my thing. It's like...
actually, that's not true.
No, you can't prevent the trending list shows up all over the place.
Hashtag.
You can take off the trending list if you want.
But by default, it's there, and some 13-year-old's probably
Yes.
not going to know how to do that. And Google has a brand to protect, and they should keep it reasonably family-friendly in
They
general.
don't have to click on it.
If you want to follow someone who's... No, but the word testicles on every page of Google, when your 13-year-old is sitting there looking at the screen, is outrageous. And the notion that they would tolerate that's insane, because it's just not cool. And the example I gave, to use an extreme example, what if a bunch of redneck Klan guys and wife beaters all got on, and they made a trending topic? But seriously, the question is where you draw the line.
Yes.
What if they made a trending topic using the N-word, or something very offensive to a majority of people? Clearly, you would have no problem with them nuking that as a trending topic if someone tried to game the system in that way. So it isn't about whether they should have the right to nuke a topic or not. It's about where you draw the line, and it's their living room. We're invited here for free, and I think they have a right to protect their brand and avoid negative news stories and avoid thousands of complaints from parents. And I think that it made perfect sense to take testicles off of it.
Dan, can I
believe
play
I'm saying
devil's
testicles.
advocate here?
Yes, sir, Euro. Go ahead.
Okay, because I generally agree with your comments, but the problem with the argument is, we have to remember that Google Plus is a worldwide service and not just in the U.S. And I think the problem is that if we start going down this road of removing trending topics because they might be offensive to certain people or certain parts of the community, or because of the image that it presents.
I think we lost you, Euro. I think you got a bandwidth issue or something.
He has a bad mic. He's such a bad mic. It's not even funny.
I think I could pick off where he was leaving off, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe the terms of service are similar to Facebook's, and you're not allowed to have people. You're not allowed to set up an account unless you're over the age of 12. It's some child protection law.
I think it's 13.
13. Yeah. I mean, I'm fairly young myself, but I think we can be adult with children to a degree. They can know the word testicle, and it's not going to be a huge deal, I guess, at age 13 and up. And a lot of the things that you were pointing out as negative, the N-word, things like that, those are against Google's terms of service because they promote hatred and things like that. And I don't think I think they do have the right to take that off. What the other gentleman was like bringing up is that the slippery slope is it's where speech interferes with somebody else's rights. They don't give the right to spread hate or violence, but just generic words like testicle, half the population has them. I mean, it's what else are you going to call it, honestly? So I understand why, but I kind of think they went a little bit too far censoring that word in particular.
Well, I wasn't offended with it, but I just find it silly, and I find it it's just useless. Like I want to have real news in the trending topics. So
and I agree with that. Google can adjust their algorithm to make trending topics more relevant, more useful to people.
I'd rather have.
But please.
But trending topics should be what's trending. I mean, Pam's right on that. It should be what people are posting about. If there was a great episode of The Simpsons on and everyone's laughing about it, that should be a trending topic. If Justin Bieber, a bunch of teenage girls are on here posting about Justin Bieber, then that should be a trending topic. It should be real. But that said, if someone had something, it's a judgment call, and it's a tough call, and I wouldn't want to be the person responsible for making that call because you get all this criticism, and Pam has legitimate criticism. I'm really curious. Let me do this. I know that, oh, my God, Shiraz.
Yes, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I mean well.
Worries.
I'm a nice guy. I mean well.
I'm going to send you a bottle of wine.
I know. I need some wine.
Once you have a bottle of Shiraz, you'll never forget it.
I'm going to tell Scoble to send me a bottle of whatever wine he was drinking in that last hangout he did. It looked really good stuff because his lips are red and everything. It was the whole deal. But tell us what questions or issues are currently popping up that you're curious to get feedback on, because I know your time is valuable and there's lots of hangouts you could be in right now, and we appreciate you joining ours.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this one definitely caught my eye. But basically, what I wanted to do is just basically be more of a fly on the wall, and just hearing what you guys are talking about is great. Google Plus is definitely designed more for engagement compared to other social media platforms. And I know that there are people that might say Google Plus and Facebook and Twitter in the same sentence, but again, I just want to emphasize that we at Google Plus aren't necessarily competing with Facebook. It's not a social network that we're trying to promote here at Google Plus. It's basically a social platform. It's a pretty cool feature because, again, we don't want one-way communication like some of the other social outlets out there. We want it to foster engagement, and just like what we're seeing here, I mean, people are giving ideas, feedback, concerns, just conversation, which is great, and that's what we want to do is connect other people. But I mean, you guys had really addressed some really cool concerns that I definitely want to bring back through my venues at Google and kind of see what we're doing because we definitely, again, want to create an overall better experience. So specifically, I was basically looking for, how people are looking to use Hangouts, what people are doing with it. It looks like you guys are pretty comfortable. Are all of you relatively new to Hangouts, or how long has everyone been using Hangouts?
I've been doing this since last August. We've been doing this since August. Yeah, I actually play games in them, watch movies in them, and everything. I have a core group, none of which is in here right now. Core group of people. each one has their own different theme night. Like I believe I started it with Monday night's Trivial Pursuit, and then my other friend Glenn Rogers, who's been on Hangout Conversations with Matthew Rappaport, he has a movie riff night where we take a YouTube movie and like do Mystery Science Theater commentary with it. And then Tuesday there's a Pictionary night, and another friend sometimes does a Hangman night. But now we have all the apps, so we can play the Scout and Doodle, the Scoot and Doodle app, or the Poke or whatever. So there's not just talking that you can do in Hangouts. There's a lot of stuff you can do in it.
Yeah, I want to say that I've just been doing Hangouts probably for 3 or 4 months, but I have to agree that Stephanie has some of the best Hangouts for art with some very innovative approaches. I participated in a few of, they're just awesome. I participated in a few of them, like the games, the trivia night, and the Pictionary, and also like watching a film together. I've done that a couple of times, and with a commentary, you have the group commentary, so it's kind of some very innovative uses going on with the Hangouts.
My use case, I'm a bit more of a lapsed Google Plus user. I'm a big tech enthusiast, but that's generally the only people I interact with when I do come on Google Plus. So it's been hard getting my friends to stay connected. We used to actually do tabletop games over Google Plus Hangouts. It was pretty interesting, but they've all kind of just gone back to Skype or Facebook or whatever. But I came on today. I've been following Dan since I've been on Google Plus because he really matches my area. I'm somebody who strives to be a journalist. I work in TV news, but I admire how Dan came on and was like really trying to bridge out from where he is in North Carolina to a whole new group of people on Google Plus. So I've been following him since then, and I join his Hangouts every now and again.
Awesome.
I only do Dan's Hangouts. Usually Friday night I do Google Plus Week, and then he has these random 4-hour-long hangouts in between, and I'll pop in every once in a while, but I'm not much of a, I'm an introvert, and I'm not much of a hangout person.
Yeah, but you have the funniest posts around. You won't even go into, like, P Sharp when she has hangouts? You won't even go into hers, or?
I don't do a lot of hangouts, no. In fact, I probably won't stay here for very long because I have other stuff to do. I'm supposed to be coloring my hair and doing some work. So I just dropped in to give Dan some feedback on our argument earlier.
Yeah. I came in tonight because I can't make Dan's Friday night hangout because I got so many other hangouts going on. But Sunday is actually like the only day that I never do a hangout. Sometimes Thursday I don't do it either. Thursday and Sunday I do them 5 days a week.
That's great. Well, yeah, I just wanted to.
Yeah,
I basically just wanted to get some just real quick feedback on. It looks like everyone's really liking the new features. Hopefully there'll be some new cool ones that you guys can. Hopefully you like those. But yeah, basically I'm out of here. I'm gonna join some other ones. But it was great meeting you all. Great talking with you.
Yeah, it was great meeting you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Cool. Hope you guys keep hanging out and enjoy the rest of your Google Plus experience.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
All right, see ya.
I'll circle you now too, Sharad.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to circle you now.
Cool. See you guys.
Bye. I have quite a few Googlers circled, but I didn't have them yet. So.
Yeah, I wanted to ask because I dropped out for technical reasons, so I don't know if you heard my little speech about the cultural difference issues. Did you guys discuss that at all? Or
I tried to pose an argument for you that we could treat children as adults, and to a certain degree we could give them the respect to not insult them and hide the word testicle or hide specific words just to censor for the sake of it, just because think of the children, I guess. But there are also cultural differences in that maybe in Europe or wherever you might stay, certain words, certain things might not have as much of a cultural impact as people they might not take offense to them, whereas people in the United States might, or somebody in Dubai might.
Yeah, I think that's where the danger lies, because if we accept this general principle that they can just remove things because it's offensive or because it hurts their image, I think we'll go down this road in the not too distant future where you'll see things being asked to be removed that are considered completely innocuous in the West or in the United States that could be considered offensive or sensitive in other countries. And what is Google supposed to do then? Completely eliminate any form of discussion?
But Euro, the difference is this. The difference is page 1. The best analogy, we discussed this in a hangout yesterday. A newspaper, right? Because I'm a newspaper guy. The top of the fold, page 1, versus page B3. It's a big difference. The Sun in London has a topless girl on page 3, right? So
right.
They wouldn't put that on the cover because, just like Hustler or Penthouse, they have, a beautiful woman wearing clothes on the cover, and then you open it up, and there's other pictures, right? So there's a big difference. And the trending list is on all of these different places throughout Google+, and it's right in your face. It's very different what you post in your stream, because someone can mute you, they can block you, they can choose whether or not to follow you. But on the trending list or your profile picture, and they have a brand to protect. That was my point. I see what you're saying about the slippery slope, and it is a judgment call.
No, I totally.
And there are differing standards around the world, right? Europe is far more acceptable of, like, TV commercials in Europe are far more risque than what you would see in the United States. So there is a difference in cultures, and it's hard to placate every culture. In Afghanistan, they're wearing burqas, right? In the United States, they're wearing, G-strings. So it's a big difference.
It'd be interesting to see.
And that's what I'm trying to say. So even with the issue of trending topics and profile pictures, there could be a trending that's considered, very offensive to people in certain countries that is not going to be considered offensive at all in the States. So I think potentially there's an issue. But I agree with you that Google obviously has a vested interest to protect its image, and it's a question of what's the best way to balance these concerns with the concerns of having as much transparency and freedom of expression as possible.
Do you think?
And the thing is, you can't keep minors out of these hangouts. If someone wants to get into a hangout that bad and they're 17 years old, they're just going to say they're 18 years old, or they're going to say they're 19 years old. It's very hard to efficiently keep out people that want to get in. And even if you look at someone, you can't necessarily tell how old they are. There's people that look like they're 16 and they're 21 years old, and on the other side, there's people that look like they're, 21 years old and they're 16.
All right, who else wants to weigh in on whatever? I guess we're done with this one.
Yeah.
What do y'all think about? What do y'all think about the 100th anniversary of the Titanic? We've all seen the movie. They're coming out with a 3D version. Fascinating story about the culture. I remember when I watched the movie, it was so interesting because just like the Malcolm X movie, I was expecting. I watched it, and the Spike Lee movie, and I was expecting like a documentary type. And I remember the first part of it was so funny, just a really interesting perspective with Spike Lee and everything. And I learned so much about him. It was so awesome, such a great movie, really interesting perspective on it, but it wasn't what I was expecting. And when I saw the Titanic, it was, everyone knew the ending, right? Bad ending. So kind of a downer, like, Glenn Beck marathon, TV episodes. But I was like, wow, this is, it was really an interesting portrait of what the American class system was like and how people, it's kind of illustrated also in Downton Abbey, if you've seen that show on PBS.
I love that show.
Yeah. It really fascinating. The class system is demonstrated in India to this day. But what are your thoughts as we look back on 100 years later? Really, it's not that long ago, right? I mean,
yeah.
we when we were most of us when we were children, the elderly folks may have known survivors. I mean, it isn't like, 1500 Middle Ages, right? So, what are your thoughts on this as we not celebrate but commemorate the 100th anniversary of the sinking of the unsinkable ship?
Well, my family was talking about it a little bit earlier today because we didn't go see the 3D one at the theater, but I own the original movie, and we saw a documentary on it last night. And well, for one thing, my mother thought that the captain himself was too arrogant, that he didn't think anything was wrong, and I think they jinxed themselves by saying the ship was unsinkable in the first place, because as soon as you say that any ship is unsinkable, it's going down. I don't think it could happen today. It really is too sad that all those people died, for sure. I don't think it could happen today. I think it's great that they re-released it for, like, say, the younger generation that didn't see the 1995 version. I don't think it's necessary in 3D, but maybe for the iceberg crashing. But I don't think any movies are necessary in 3D, though. I think it's just a rip-off to get parents to have to spend more money on kids' movies, to be honest. I've never, ever liked any 3D movies. The glasses give me a headache. But yeah, I think it's good that they had Titanic out. And why I got hooked on Downton Abbey was the very first episode. They talked about the Titanic just sinking and the strong historical significance of the show Downton Abbey is what makes me watch it. When my friends made me go see the Titanic at the show, and I go, why would I want to see that when I already know the ending? I honestly thought, what is the point of this when everybody knows the ending? It was worth seeing. It was so good that I've actually seen it about 5 times. Yeah.
Apparently, and I'm going to try and find the facts on this, but I'm not going to, I'm sure. But apparently, it was never said that the ship was unsinkable. Apparently, what was said was something along the lines of the ship is almost unsinkable. And you know how newspapers are, not even back then, but always across all of history, they like to put headlines on, and someone put a headline that said the ship was unsinkable, and all of a sudden the ship went from being unsinkable to my bad. The ship went from almost unsinkable to unsinkable, and it's just stuck because that was a much bigger headline.
Henry, you're in Liverpool, and you just posted a comment in our private Hangout chat that says that your home city is commemorating it with Street Festival next week, as the White Star Line headquarters are a mile from where you live. They've changed their name, but don't they still exist?
It's Cunard now, I believe. I believe Cunard overtook White Star Line. They bought it out at some point. The headquarters, White Star Line and Cunard, were 2 separate companies, and they were both in Liverpool. And then sometime during, I think it was a little bit after World War II, Cunard bought out White Star Line and then moved their headquarters to London. So, like, Liverpool, if you watch the film, the word Liverpool is written on the back of the ship. So, I've got it ear to ear for the last 5 weeks. The Titanic this, Titanic that. Gracious.
I remember seeing the movie, and it was just, James Cameron, everything he does is awesome. He's really good. I'm excited about the future Avatar movies. That was one that, the 3D thing, it was interesting to watch the 3D technology, mainly because of Avatar, Best Buy and all the stores just went crazy over 3D, but people didn't buy it, I think largely because there wasn't enough content out there. When they first started, it was, there were a dozen movies in 3D that you could buy, and it's interesting to compare that to the color television, where Disney started broadcasting the Sunday night, Disney show in color, and a whole bunch of people bought color television sets. this is before my time, but
Yeah.
they bought them specifically because the Disney show was in color. And it's interesting to see the lack of adoption compared to that with 3D. I think it was, I guess it was a price point, and maybe, it gives you kind of a headache, and it's the glasses were expensive. I'm not sure what the deal was. What are your thoughts on that? Is a trending technology, or do you think it's something that will benefit the theaters because most people don't have a 3D TV capable set in their house, and so it's something that they're going to be able to do these blockbusters and get you to put your butt in the seat in the theater and pay for it, as opposed to being able to watch it at home. What are your thoughts?
I definitely think that it's something that needs to be kept in the cinema. I'm not the biggest fan of 3D myself.
Yeah.
I could roll with my glasses, my eyesight.
When you already wear glasses, it's too hard. It is. When you're already.
Yeah, we're all wearing glasses here. I think I could bring up a few points. I mean, 3D is not a new technology. We've been having different variants of 3D cinema since the 50s.
And it never lasted for long.
It just never lasts. And this even now, it still reeks of fad where films are being shot for 2D and then 3D effects are being added in post.
To make more money.
Just to get the extra $4, like the Wrath of the Titans that just came out. Terrible, but even more terrible with 3D because it's just post-production added and they just do it so they get $4 extra on the ticket.
Totally.
For 3D to work, you really have to... Go ahead.
Nope, sorry, I interrupt a lot. Go ahead, yeah.
For 3D to work, I mean, it has to be filmed with 3D in mind. Avatar, James Cameron specifically filmed that to be shot on IMAX 3D, and it shows. It's immersive. When you're flying through those floating rocks, you see them pop out and come at you. Films like Hugo, they did 3D well because they shot it with 3D in mind, but I think it's kind of a niche thing. It may pick up, but I don't think it's gonna move to the home theater just because of the issues with the technology. Only a certain amount of people have a good viewing angle on the television set, so.
Yeah, and if you're already wearing glasses, then the glasses will give you a headache.
Then the headaches.
Yeah, so Hugo was right. It was a good example, and Avatar, like movies that are shot with 3D to begin with, but so many people are just adding 2D movies to be a ripoff. I really do think it's just a flash in the pan. I'm a huge hardcore movie buff. I watch 4 or 5 movies a week, and I could care less about 3D. So there you go.
Good writing, good cinematography.
Yeah, good writing is much more important. It's good casting is very important.
What services do you use to get your movies? Do you use like a Redbox or Netflix or Amazon Prime?
I'm in Canada right now, right? So we don't even have Redbox where I am. Netflix, yes. Amazon Prime. Basically, I can't even access Hulu right now. But Netflix is very good. I actually buy a lot of DVDs previously viewed. I only own about 250 now because I sold a bunch. But yeah, I actually go to the theater as well. Netflix is a godsend. I have like a Netflix page on here and I do reviews and recommendations. I just think that I know there's studio restrictions. It's not Netflix's fault and Amazon, but I think services like that should be available internationally to anybody who's willing to pay for them. I think anybody who's willing to put their credit card on there and pay for it should have access to it. I just don't like the restrictions.
Yeah, I'm upset that with Pottermore, where you can't buy if you're in the if you're in the United States, you can't buy the British version with the British dialect, which is the original one that she actually wrote of Harry Potter.
Yeah.
You can buy the Americanized version. If you're in the UK, you can't buy the Americanized version. You can buy the original one. It's almost like dumbing down Shakespeare. Not that J.K. Rowling is Shakespeare, but you lose something. I want to know what the author said. I want the option. I want the ability to buy either one, and I don't like that they put that wall up where if you're in the I mean, Shakespeare is in a ridiculous but apropos analogy.
You want the original work. The
Yeah,
original context.
I want
Like
what
you
she
said.
wrote. I want to know what Janet Rowling actually wrote, right?
Exactly.
And I can't buy that, so I have to scam it. If I wanted to, I'd buy it on eBay or whatever. But
Exactly. People
that's
are going to
crazy.
buy it no matter what. Like, there's always ways around getting material. That's what I'm saying, yeah. So that's stupid. These restrictions they're putting on them because the cable companies don't want people, just being able to access it online. But there's lots of people who will go to any lengths to get what they want anyways. There's always another
that's
avenue.
it.
So make it legal. Make it legal. That's what I say. You know what I mean?
That's why Google
Yeah.
Music is currently only available in the US at the minute. It's just.
Well, it's because it's
concept
it's because of the music studio restrictions. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure Google
Yeah,
would like
copyright holders are shooting themselves in the foot, like being so slow with adopting these new technologies. And I won't say it's all their fault either. Concerning Canada, there are restrictions and limitations to licensing music and video and books in other countries,
Canada's
and
terrible.
that's a case of lawyers fighting. Lawyers fighting it out with different nations. Legal systems and their laws concerning rights holders. It's a big complicated mess. I feel sorry because all my friends from outside the United States are always complaining about how lucky we are to have all these services that, like Google
you have
Talk.
access to everything.
Google Talk, I hear, isn't available in some countries, and just
Well, we have Google. We don't have Google Voice. No, like
Google
I can do
Voice?
Google Talk.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't Google Voice though.
So-
but I
Google
do.
Music, Google Voice.
Google Music, Google Voice.
Yeah.
Google TV isn't even available yet.
Well, On Air is a good example. On Air is only available in 11 countries right now.
Oh,
But
really?
I think it's available in
interesting.
Canada because Billy Wilson has it, so it must be available in Canada because he has the On Air and he's Canadian.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
11 countries. I don't have the complete list in front of me, but it's mostly the Anglo-Saxon countries and a couple. There's 2 or 3 foreign language countries.
Now, something like Google Voice, not being in other countries, that makes, it's unfortunate, but it makes sense because it's a logistical issue. Because obviously Google needs to get all the phone numbers that are Canadian phone numbers, or if they want to go to Mexico, they need to get Mexican phone numbers, or wherever they go, they need to get that country's sets of phone numbers. And depending on, area codes, you also need to get, different area codes for all those phone numbers. So that's probably a lot more of a logistical issue than it is like, I can't even think of any other reason.
Well, actually, with the
maybe. Go ahead.
no, I'm sorry. I was just going to say with the if you're talking about the Google Voice, I think it's primarily a cost issue.
Right. Obviously,
For
like I
voice
said,
over IP?
Well, it costs something to get all those phone numbers, and then it costs something for the voice over IP, which is probably very similar to what it costs in the United States and any developed nation, if not completely the same, because obviously the servers are. Well, actually, that's probably not true, but because you'd want U.S. servers in U.S. and European servers in Europe, but.
But my American friends can call me for free from Google Voice. I just can't call them. Interesting, eh? Yeah, because I can give them my landline number. I give them my landline number, and they can call it for free. But it's only the one-way thing, so they can call me. But that's fine with me. I've got Google Hangouts, I've got Skype, because 90% of my Google Plus friends are American. So, so they just call me that way. That's all.
Yeah, it's probably a case of getting numbers in those localities, is my best guess.
But they'll probably all change in the future. Eventually, they'll have it available internationally.
Mhm.
Yeah, hopefully. But I think there's a real cost issue because if you dial to European phone numbers, they have to know if it's going to
it might not be available to Europe or in Australia. Can you imagine Australia and China? But I think they should have it available to Canada for sure, because Canada's not that far away, really.
That's true.
Yeah.
There's really no reason to exclude Canada.
No.
They
So,
do
and
include. I believe they include U.S. and Canada, right, for the to be able to call from a Hangout.
I think so,
Or is it
yeah.
just-
But I can't get my own Google Voice number, though. That's all. That's
Right.
I think I could call from a Hangout, though, yeah. I've never tried it.
I mean, you know, like I mean, I don't even know how many years ago, probably decades ago, like, you know, well, actually probably not, well, like probably 15, 20 years ago now. You know, it costs more money to call, you know, like Puerto Rico or Hawaii or Alaska because, you want to call Hawaii, you know, all those landlines need to go under the ocean or however they do it to get those, you know, the phone calls across the ocean. And, you know, same thing to a lesser degree to, you know, Puerto Rico. And, but, you know, getting communication from one location to a much farther off location is, you know, more expensive. But fortunately, with the advances in technology, we've been able to reduce, if not eliminate, those increased costs.
Yep, I agree.
I mean, that's why you had exchanges back, you know, however many years, you know, decades ago, you had exchanges.
Mhm. All right. Well, I've got to go because I'm expecting a call at 6:30. But you guys have a good night. Nice to meet you.
Have a good night.
Take care.
Good.
Oh, where did that go from? I think we started out with a conversation about Titanic, but that was a nice path, winding path.
Yeah, I just want to say about the Titanic because I found some cool photos today that were taken by a first-class passenger on the Titanic, and so I posted those, and it was kind of cool to see, you know, photos from the real ship and the passengers, and I also posted some the wireless messages, the distress messages that were sent from the ship as they were being transcribed. So it was kind of chilling to see them and think about those operators, you know, hope dissipating as they kept sending the messages over hours, you know.
Well, I mean, could you imagine having to send those messages, but even worse, you know, having to receive those messages? I mean, it's got to be, you know, heart-aching. And
yeah, and that's the sense that I got just like looking at the photos of them, is like imagining the operator sending them or the person receiving them, you know, and the helplessness of the situation.
I think it's a lot like the Civil War apps that came out because, you know, as you approach that anniversary, it was really neat to see apps that would deliver over a, you know, 4-5 year period. I guess it was 1861 to 1865. They would. There are apps out there now that will deliver Civil War news every day in real time as it happened, and that's fascinating to me. I mean, what a great way for a young person to learn the history, or for anyone. I think it's fascinating. I mean, the innovation is so amazing. You know, in terms of learning new things and becoming acquainted with things you've heard about, but you really, you know, we weren't there. None of us were there. But to present it in real time like that, so that you can just ingest that day's news over a period of several years, you could become sort of a prosumer historian, to coin a term, of Civil War history using that app. I think it's fantastic. The innovation, it's so simple, but it's so awesome.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was so impressed when I first saw that too, for the same reasons actually.
I interviewed a 102-year-old woman one time. This was a woman born in Germany, and this was a few years ago. She's still alive. She's about 106 now, or 105. She was born in 1906, I think. So she was in Germany. She was so old that she was hit on as a teenager by troops coming back from World War I. And wow. She lived in Munich and she watched the rise of Hitler, and she said that she went to the Hofbrauhaus, a beer hall in Munich, where I've been, and she said that she just wanted to see what all the fuss was about because they thought this guy was crazy. And I said, well, you know, in retrospect, you know, he's pretty crazy. She shook Herbert Hoover's hand. Wow. She worked at she was a German teacher at a school, I forget, Sidwell Friends maybe in D.C. area, and then after the war broke out, German became out of fashion, of course. You know, when we renamed sauerkraut Liberty Cabbage and Frankfurters became hot dogs, and so when she was there, she got fired after the war broke out, or laid off or whatever, because there was no demand to learn German. Similar to like the hostility that you know, great Americans who were Muslim faced after 9/11, and the Japanese who were, you know, good American citizens faced after, you know, in World War II when they were put in internment camps. So then one time Eleanor Roosevelt came to speak when she was First Lady of New York, not even First Lady of the United States, and she met the Rockefeller, who she said was an elderly man who was very formal, and he would pick up litter on the, you know, on the campus of the school. It was just such an honor to talk to someone, and it really puts things in perspective, because like the Civil War, to all of us here, we're all in our, you know, 20s, 30s, 40s. It's amazing to think, to be able to sit. Can you imagine sitting across the room with someone who was a Civil War soldier? And when I was talking to this woman, I did the math in my head, and I was thinking, when she was a kid, a teenager, and in her 20s, a lot of the elderly people, you know, 50s, 60s, 70s, in her life were Civil War soldiers. And it was like it was a connection as I spoke to her, and it was just mind-boggling to think I'm sitting here talking to a person who's 102 years old, and this is only 4 years ago, and when she was growing up, Civil War soldiers were like, you know, generally available. And I'm just like, my God. I mean, because to me, fighting over slavery is such a crazy foreign thought, you know what I mean? Because we've advanced so much. I mean, we're not perfect, but we've advanced far beyond, you know, stealing the Indians' land and enslaving black people and all that stuff. But we're not perfect. But we've gone a long ways from them. And just to talk to someone who probably had lots of relatives or friends or uncles or whatever who fought in the Civil War, or it's just, it's mind-boggling. It really makes you realize that time is fleeting, and that these 100, 200, 300 years old, you know, back to Shakespeare or the Middle Ages, it's really not that long ago if you think about it in those terms. I don't know if that makes any sense. I mean, maybe I'm, you know, but it's just, it was a real life-altering experience for me, just this one single interview. And I've interviewed a lot of people, really interesting people. You know, I've seen Reagan, Princess Diana. I covered Obama when he was running for president. But this one interview really impacted me in that way. It really put things in perspective. It made me realize that those black and white pictures you see in the history books aren't that far back, really, if you think about it. Mm. But anyway, right. What do you guys want to talk about? Somebody just chime in. Don't be shy. Go ahead.
I'll just say your last point. I participate in Paris once a month or twice a month. I go to this center which is used to help foreigners, I guess, acclimate to France and whatnot. And it's just a group of people, and they have some discussions. And often we have a lot of elderly people who come in as volunteers to help. And it's so interesting to hear their personal stories, because they talk about events that I know about, or that we may know about from a historical perspective, like World War II and the occupation of Paris by the Germans during the war. But to hear it from their personal perspective and talk about you know, how it impacted their day-to-day lives, I mean, I just find that totally fascinating, and can't even imagine like growing up in that type of environment.
Well, I mean, like when you grow up and you were born after a major, you know, piece of history, like, you know, whether it be the Civil War or the attacks on Pearl Harbor or World War II itself, you know, it's just, you know, in 50 years when, you know, there's a kid and, you know, they want to talk to you about the, you know, September 11th attacks, it's just, you know, you're so far removed from it because you weren't, even as a kid, you weren't alive when those events,
Right.
when, you know, specific events happened. And you can't fully understand it, even if you, like, you know, look back at, you know, footage from the time, and it's just not the same because you don't get the current mindset of what, you know, people are thinking. Like, sure, you can ask them what they were thinking, but it's hard to, you know, ask, you know, 100 different people what their mindset was and to, you know, accurately put it together.
Well, I could say my experience is a bit different. I never really studied the culture of the Civil War, I suppose. I'm aware of the loss of life and the impact it has on the United States. I mean, if you brought it in relative terms, the 600,000 soldiers and people that died during the war would amount to 7 million Americans today. And it was truly massive, a war of attrition almost, where the South had superior generals, so to speak, and what the North had was the economy, the base, the manufacturing, the people, the bodies to basically throw men into the grinder against the Southern generals and wear them down. So it was truly a terrible and drawn-out conflict. But concerning the history that you described, where talking to people can give people context to certain events. In my discussions, I always bring up when I talk about the civil rights era and how we talk about how after Obama's become a president that we're in a post-racial society. I kind of bring up as a reference that my own father, he would tell me stories of getting chased home by a mob of protesters when he would try and go to school. Because, and this was in New York. I mean, he was in New York during integration, and he would tell me these stories of being chased and having rocks thrown at him, and people running to his door, leaving threats and things like that. So I always like kind of put that in context. We're just one generation removed from a lot of things, and when you talk to somebody who's been there, you get a whole new understanding of what it meant and how close you are to the past, the things that we read in history books, I guess.
That's fascinating, and you're so right, because it was that. The big advantage of the North was they had the industrial base. They had all the money, the factories.
Yeah.
But the South, they had the generals. You know, Robert E. Lee was a fantastic general.
Mm-hmm.
And they had, I mean, they were just more rural. They had horsemanship backgrounds, and they were just, you know, ready to go. It was fascinating. And then people talk about how it was an issue of states' rights, and to a degree it was. But if you actually look at the declarations as they joined the Confederacy, it clearly was about slavery.
Yes.
It was an economic issue because it was
slavery was their means to manufacture, to produce their product, their agrarian society, and they built it on the backs of slave laborers. So it was to protect their economic interests at the expense of a whole group of people's civil rights. But yeah, it's the war. It was truly a case of where you're just grinding down.
One of my teachers had an interesting comment about slavery in the South. I went to an all-male military school for high school, Fort Union Military Academy, and is it Devon or Devon?
Devon.
Devon. The teacher said to me, he said, you know, slaves were expensive. He said, not everybody had them. People have this.
No,
you know,
there was a very small group of people in the South who had slaves.
Right, and most who had them had one who was like a housekeeper or you know, general whatever, nanny, housekeeper combined. But the people who actually had a plantation and there were, you know, 100 slaves or something. They were the rich guys Right, they were the 1%. But it was it was awful. But so many countries have an awful period in their past, and you try to grow from that. And we're all shaped by that, right? I'm an Irish immigrant. I mean, we came because the potatoes rotted. So none of my relatives ever owned any slaves. But still, it's like I'm proud of America. I'm proud of the example we generally set. I'm proud of, the shining city on a hill that some people view us as. And but in the same context, you have to remember that we're Europeans. I'm not a Navajo, and Devin, you're not a Cherokee. We came here because, the Europeans wanted a new world, and the Africans were enslaved and brought here, and we basically stole land and killed the Indians and blah, blah, blah. It's an awful startup. But in the end, they're trying to adopt Google's, do no evil in modern times. But it's a fascinating history. But go ahead, Devin.
I can say that nobody's culture is set. Even me, for example, I'm a first-generation American, I guess. My dad immigrated to the United States in the 60s, my mom in the late 70s. So a lot of what we describe as African American black culture in the United States isn't my culture necessarily either. So there's no one way you can class people. You could just define somebody by the way they look or how they speak or talk or whatever. I mean, everybody's different circumstances. So I agree with you there. I mean,
it's a truly global world now. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what nation you come from. It doesn't matter what color your skin is. It just doesn't matter anymore.
Basically, I can tell you when I used to work nights a few years back, my interaction was mostly with Australians who I was playing video games with online. I mean, they would be up at the same time as me, so it's truly a global world. So I don't sweat it.
One of the comments in the YouTube live player is, what do you think about the Facebook, Instagram purchase, $1 billion? It was really funny to watch that interview on CNET with Vic Gandotra, who is the vice president. They're both vice presidents. I forget. One's for Google Plus and one's for social, or I forget. But Bradley Horowitz and Vic Gandotra did that, and Vic's comment was, well, those dozen people did really well, but we're focused on the Google Plus experience. So he dodged it. It was a non-answer answer, but it was great. So they bought it for $1 billion, and there were all these stories. Again, all these people looking to write stories that will generate traction and SEO, and it's nonsense, because they said that everyone was dumping Instagram because Facebook purchased them. But in fact, they gained millions of new ads because of it, new subscribers or users. So what do y'all think about that? About Facebook buying Instagram and what it means? Because apparently there was a bidding war. If you believe all the stories, there was a bidding war that Google Plus wanted them, and Twitter wanted them, because it was mainly a service you'd see a lot on Twitter from prominent people. And then Facebook got them, and they're saying that they're going to keep them separate business, and blah blah blah. But what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's probably good for Facebook, because now they've got a photo share and that. But
can you up your volume, Henry? You're hard to hear.
I'm sorry. I'm talking quite quiet because my parents are in bed.
Just if you can go into in Windows, it will be Control Panel. I don't know if you're using Windows or Mac, but if you can up the volume of your microphone, that would be good.
Well,
anybody weigh in? Go ahead.
If I would add, I mean, I personally I don't use Instagram. I don't think it's as useful a service as just linking to Google Plus or Facebook or whatever your image is. But it has 30 million users. A lot of people do think it's valuable. So we're seeing, like, I think Facebook picked it up to for like multiple reasons. They wanted the talent. They wanted those 30 million users, additional information, additional data, metrics on those people, where they take their pictures, all the kind of things that they can share with the Facebook data they already have. Because I believe there's already a sign-in with Facebook feature on Instagram. I mean, they're just consolidating. They want to consolidate and become an image-sharing website. I mean, Facebook just wants to grow bigger at this point. So.
Yeah, I think it was a defensive move. You know, either Facebook could have bought the company, or they could have allowed it to go to one of their biggest competitors, and they chose to, you know, spend $1 billion that basically they had laying around for this type of thing and buy Instagram. Obviously, this, you know, those 12 people that they got from the purchase of the company, or you know, something, probably not the, what is it? If you divide it, $75 million a piece or something absurd like that. I don't think it was really so much about the users, because you have to remember, Facebook has 849 million users. How many of those 40 million users that Instagram have do you think already have Facebook accounts? I would suspect it's a, you know, fairly large amount, if not a huge amount.
That's why I brought up, like, you're getting different data, different metrics. I guess that's part of what's it called? Facebook's social graph. That's what they sell to advertisers. So they're getting new. They're getting the places that these people take pictures at. They're getting the restaurants. They're getting where they travel. Just new new data, new metrics that makes them more valuable as a company. And they have an engaged group of people who truly do like Instagram and are probably sharing on that app a lot more than they are on the Facebook app, which is clunky on Android anyway, which is what I use. But I don't know if it's any better on iPhone. But I'm pretty sure they're getting a lot more. They're getting a lot more involved, a lot more engagement out of as far as photo sharing goes from Instagram users than the regular Facebook users who are using the app. It's just what I assumed anyway. I couldn't say, none of us could really say unless not in those meetings or anything, but I don't know. Anybody else have any other thoughts on it?
I think that you're, you know, largely, you know, correct. I think Facebook probably paid too much for Instagram.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that most companies get paid. You know, when most large companies buy
other tech companies, it feels like a bubble.
They're always paying too much. But I mean, you know, paying too much is, you know, also relative, because, you know, if the company is only worth $500 million and you pay double to make sure that you get it, I guess that's not, you know, so far out of the realm of, you know, just the way that business operates, whether it be in the tech sector or any other sector. You know, you want to get a particular company, and especially if you're in a bidding war with, you know, one of your primary competitors, you're going to pay more than the, you know, the valuation of the company. And then you get into the, you know, the details of, you know, these companies are probably overvalued to begin with, but, you know, that's an entirely different can of worms.
And Carlos, I guess you just joined. We're just talking about the Instagram buyout by Facebook. I guess if maybe you wanted to add something.
Yeah, can you hear me first of all?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Well, I guess you can say that I'm not entirely surprised. It'll be very interesting to see what Facebook does with Instagram. As far as them remaining independent, I'm not sure I believe that they're going to stick with that route. I think eventually, I have a feeling that Facebook is eventually going to require people to use a Facebook login to be able to use the service. That's just my opinion. I think Instagram is okay, but after using it for a little bit, I didn't see what the big deal was.
I'm not sure what the big deal is either, but 40 million users, I guess.
How much do you reckon it's an attempt to combat instant upload from Google Plus? Do you reckon they might include some kind of instant upload for Instagram for Facebook?
Well, I mean, if we're going to be honest, yeah, they're Facebook and Google just seem to be mimicking each other's features back and forth, and I guess that's what makes all this competition really good. Like our last update, it made the site cleaner, but we now have the ribbon, the panoramic picture shot at the top of our page now. You know,
Yeah.
I guess Facebook could want something competing with Google with instant upload, since it's just on Android devices. So they could have something that's universal, I guess, Windows Mobile, Apple, and Android, and try and offer a competing service. Yeah, they're definitely going to use that data at some point. I mean, there's no way they're not. And even they qualify. They say we're going to leave Instagram alone for now. So there's no guarantee, 6-8 months down the line, whether or not it's integrated into Facebook somehow.
I don't think they're going to get too many new users out of it. I think the majority already on Facebook.
Oh yeah, there's going to be a lot of overlap when Facebook has like 1 billion users, if you believe them. So a large percentage of the Instagram users are probably going to have a Facebook page too.
All right, so what else do you guys want to talk about? What else is going on?
Something new.
Not much. The it's windy outside. We're expecting maybe a storm or two. Hopefully it'll blow by real quickly.
Now, where are you at?
I'm in central Arkansas.
Home of Walmart, right?
Yes. I'm actually in the central part of the state, closer to Little Rock. Walmart's more in the northwestern areas.
Well, if earlier we had talked a little bit about some of the issues related to copyright and piracy and whatnot, and I was going to mention that in France they had proposed a solution that was on the verge of becoming a law, which would really solve the issue, which was creating a general license, so which would allow anyone and everyone to download any content that they would like. So, for instance, songs or films or whatnot, and they would just simply have tracking to determine, how much was being downloaded by which copyright holders, and the funds they would receive compensation through the general fund, through the general licensing, rather than through individuals.
Now, this is in France, you're saying?
Yeah, in France.
Now, how would you say the general, outlook on piracy is in France? I mean, obviously some countries, don't care, what the citizens do at all, and other countries are very, like Sweden, I don't think cares at all, and on the other hand, you have the United States, which, freaks out.
Well, that's why I said that here they were proposing a solution to try to solve the issue completely, because basically what we're talking about is giving people the legal ability to download whatever they'd like, and at the same time to ensure that the right holders are appropriately compensated. And it solves the whole conundrum of an enforcement issue and whatnot. And this was already a bill that was on the verge of being adopted, but the U.S. industry, primarily from Hollywood, the MPAA and others, put a lot of pressure on them and convinced them to scrap the bill finally.
Now, where would this money be generated from? Would it be like some sort of, you know, tax in general, or where's the money coming from?
Yeah, the money comes from a fee that is assessed by the ISPs. So you pay, will be part of your monthly fee, actually, that you paid for your ISP. So it's automatically built in, and you know, I think a lot of countries have this with cassette tapes, for instance, that there's a slight tax imposed on cassette tapes, with the idea that part of it is going to be, the funds are used to compensate the right holders.
Now, I've heard of, kind of going in a different direction, but remaining in the same, area. I've heard of various countries wanting to put taxes on, large hard drives, usually in the 1 terabyte and larger ranges, where if you buy a 1 terabyte drive, you'd be paying some sort of tax on that, which would go to the, to content creators. I think in general those kind of taxes have been voted down by the voters and such, but which I guess is it kind of seems similar, because you're adding a fee to your ISP, or you're adding a fee to hard drives, or you're adding a fee to cassette tapes or CDs, or what have you, whatever means of the media that you're using, whether it be some physical sort of media, through the internet.
All right, guys, are we out of topics?
I don't have anything.
Nothing on my mind. Nothing on my mind, no.
Okay. All right, well, thanks for watching. We appreciate it. This is the Sunday Random Hangout, and I will catch you next time. So thanks, everybody, for joining. Appreciate it.
Well, and thank you, Dan, for having us. Great show.
Awesome. Thanks for all you guys. All right, we'll see you tomorrow, probably.